Bom dia.
Good morning. Yeah, I lost my light a little bit over here, but we're gonna figure it out. Good enough. All right. With the help of Hashem, we are learning ERUVIN Daf Pei Vav. Before we begin with the intro for today, as we learned in the Mishnah, that if the Balabayas retains Tfisas Yad shel Balabayas, he has some sort of rights, he retains something in an apartment or in a home that he leased or rented out, then the tenant's non-participation in the Eruv is not a problem, as long as the Balabas was mishtatev in the Eruv. So Tzvika asked yesterday, what about these Airbnb cases? So I just want to say a couple of pointers. If you have a home and you have a back house and you Airbnb it out, koydem kol, one yid and one goy, we paskin like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, there is no need to do schiras makim. A yid with another yid, so here we have to say the following. Koydem kol, in Shulchan Aruch, we have the shita that says that if someone is a tenant for 30 days or less, or for less than 30 days, then there's no need to make an eruv with him. Whether people halachically follow this opinion, you have to ask a rav. Let's assume that the person is going to be there for 30 days. So here we will use the concept of Tfisas Yad. Now, as we mentioned yesterday, beginning with the Ben Boinias, that he retained in the tenant's, in the renter's house, his furniture. But the Gemara's case is not that Boinias leased out a furnished apartment. He kept his furniture that was for him. That is called Tfisas Yad, which is what we are speaking about. Whether a person who rents out, let's say, a furnished apartment, whether we can say that since the furniture, since the refrigerator, since the stove or whatever belongs to the Balabayas, so therefore the tenant's non-participation in the Eruv is not a problem. Or if it's only the owner and the tenant in the back, there's no need to make an Eruv because he's really only like a guest. This is something that is big debated amongst the Poskim. Rav Moshe was the one that was very lenient. Even when you rent out a furnished apartment, holds Rav Moshe, it's considered that the tenant is only like a guest. Almost all of the other contemporary poskim argued with him, but we rely on him b'di'evet. Right, Shevet Halevi has a whole tshuva on this. Rabbi Vosner Paskin, that b'di'evet we can rely on the leniency of Rav Moshe. This is really halacha l'maisa, because many people, if you live in a location that there's b'chlal no eruv, and you have a back house and you lease it out to a yid, again, to a goy, it's not a problem because it's one-on-one, then b'di'evet at least we can say eruv is not needed because it's a furnished apartment if it's rented out with furniture. Now we're going to have on Daf Pei Vav, as we started yesterday, Rabbi MERCAVA Dashirim, Rabbi Kiva MERCAVA Dashirim, and we're going to learn inside the Gillian Ashas, we're going to learn inside the Rabbi Kiva Eger that gives a Gavaldiki insight as to why. We're going to have other definitions of Tfisas Yad here in the Gemara. We're going to learn a new Mishnah on Daf Pei Vav that's going to speak about the absentee resident. That means that you own a house in a chutzner, but you're not there for Shabbos and you did not participate. Is that a problem by the fact that you own something there or not? Question is asked regarding a Yid who's an absentee resident. Lahavdil, the same question asked by a Goy who's an absentee resident. So we're going to learn the difference between visiting your son's home versus visiting your son and daughter-in-law's home versus visiting your son-in-law's and daughter's home. And we're going to have the Mishnah Daf Peivav Amud Aleph regarding Arivei Mayo. And that's going to be a Gavaldic scenario where you have two Chatzeros side by side that were not Ma'arif together. There is a water pit that's in between these two Chatzeros. The wall that divides the Chatzeros goes over the water pit, but only over it. Pictures will be very helpful. And the question will be whether we say that the water in the pit is really from both Chatzeros. Let's even word it in the context of the flow of our sugyas. Both Chatzeros have access to the water of the pit. If they're not ma'arif together, as we continuously are learning, so then neither of them can use the pit. So there is a certain additional type of mechitza, at least according to most of the Tanoim, that if that is added to the pit, we'll see various understandings of the Mishnah, exactly where it needs to be placed. And then we will say that the water is considered divided, and each side can take, so to say, from the water of their side. That's going to lead us into the whole discussion of suspended partitions, as we have been learning many times, that even though there is a concept of good achis mechitzta, but on the other hand, we say gedoyim boikim boy, and by water, we are more lenient. We do allow for the application of good achis mechitzta. When it gets to mayim, b'chlal, we're going to compare hilchas sukkah and hilchas Shabbos, and it can go both ways, claiming this one should be more chamer, that one should be more chamer. And God willing, if we'll have time, we will start quoting another lenient, very lenient ruling of the Tana Rabbi Hananya ben Akavya regarding mechitzas over water. Good. So Nachmal, how did we get into this whole flow over here? We got into this whole flow by speaking. Right, guys, I had a problem with my recording. I'm going to have to be kids and make my intro again. Whatever I said until now was not recorded over here. So Nachamol, guys, I apologize. I'll make a kitzur intro. With the help of Hashem, we are learning ERUVIN Daf Pei Vav. We are learning the sugya of Tfisa Siyad. Quickly introducing Halacha L'maisa. Sfika asked at the end of yesterday's shir, if a person has a Airbnb back house that's leased out, first of all, if it's a Jew and a Goy, we paskin like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, and Eruv is not needed, Schidus Makam is not needed. If you lease it out to another Yid, so then first of all, we have in halacha this line of if it's for less than 30 days, it's not a problem. If it's for 30 days or more, we're learning about Tfisa Siyad, a application of Tfisa Siyad that Rav Moshe allows, which is related to, but not what we're learning in our sugya, is if you lease out a furnished back house or a furnished apartment. So in the case that the Gemara brings of Boinias ben Boinias, where he left his own furniture, that's different. There, it's his furniture that the tenant may not use. That's for sure called Tfisa Siyad. When you lease out a refrigerator, when you rent out the house with the oven, Rav Moshe relies on that also to be called Tfisa Siyad, therefore not needing an Eruv Chatzeres. Most poskim argued with him, and b'diavad, we accept the shita of Rav Moshe. We're going to learn about an absentee resident, whether his non-participation in the Eruv is problematic or not, both a Yid or a non-Yid, and we will learn about a boir of mayim that's in between two chatzeros that were not ma'arif together. The wall that separates both chatzeros goes over the boir of mayim, whether being that two chatzeros have equal access to the third chatzer, as we have been learning. When they're not ma'arif, one answers on the other, but there are certain leniencies given by water. There's a certain, what we would call a very unusual type of mechitza, that if that is placed, that will allow them to use it. There are b'chlal many leniencies when it comes to mechitzas over water, mechitzas over land. Good achis mechitzta is ruined by gedoyim boikim boy. We normally don't say so when it comes to mechitzas over water. And if we'll have time, we will start with Rab Hananya ben Akavya's other leniencies by mechitzas over water. We will start on Daf Pei Vav Amud Aleph. We left off 5 lines from the top of the Amud. Again, the flow was, the Mishnah spoke about Tfisas Yad Shel Baal Habayis, and the example we gave was that Boinius was so wealthy that he would leave his furniture in apartments and he would actually lend it out. That's in the Gemaras, that was the first example of Tfisas Yad, because imagine I rent you out my house, but there are things that you may not use that are mine that are left there. That means I retained for myself an area in that apartment. Now that we mentioned Bunyas ben Bunyas and how Rebbe gave honor to him, so the Gemara gives a more generic statement. Rebbe mechabed ashirim. Rebbe gave honor to wealthy people. Rabbi Akiva was mechabed ashirim. Look inside the Gilyon Hashas in the bottom. I'm just reading it out, the Bilikutei Maharil, that heard it from the Maharam Segal. The Yesh Leimar, why was that? Since Rebbe himself was very wealthy, therefore he himself would honor other Ashirim, because people honored Rebbe himself. Rebbe never wanted to get honor because of the Stoida learning at all, not to make any use of a Stoida learning. But now that he established a precedent that you have to give honor to an Ashir, so therefore all of the honor that was given to Rebbe was because he was an Ashir. That was something good for Rebbe. Bechlal, the Rebbe understands Rebbe Mechabed Ashirim, Hamaisu Ha'ikir. The reason why we are here is to make a Dira Lo Yisbarach, and that's done by actions, and those who support those actions, they are the ones de facto that bring forth the purpose of the entire creation. And the Hashgacha Pratis, whether they earned it, or whether this Boinius that clearly did not earn it, as we learned yesterday, it was his father's money. The Rebbe told his father how to dress his son. Doesn't matter if Hashgacha Pratis, someone has the means, and they use it obviously to support Yiddishkeit, that is something that deserves the utmost respect. And Kedadara Shirava Bar Mari, based on a pasuk in Tehillim Samach Aleph, where it says Yeshev Oilam Lefnei Elokim. The literal meaning is may the king, we're speaking about Mashiach or Malchi Yisrael, may they sit forever before God. Chesed ve'emes man yinseru, and they should appoint kindness and truth, right, which will preserve them. Their appointment of, their pursuing of, will preserve these kings. That is the pshat. Taiches the Gemara like this: that Ema Shayeshiv Oilam Lefnei Elokim. We're not speaking about a king. When will the world be properly established before Hashem? What gives continuity and establishment for the world? That's Bisman Shech Chesed ve'emes man. That's at the time that there are manas, food. When there is a lot of not only emes but beyond emes, chesed. In other words, when people give food for those who need it, that is yinseruhu. That is what preserves for the world to stand solid in front of God. And who does that? The Ashirim. Atkan was one understanding of Tfisas Yad. So we gave the example of Boinius. Now appreciate, not only is this not like the tshuva we mentioned from Rav Moshe, that's speaking about rented out furniture, a furnished apartment. No, it's more than that, is that the furniture that he left was substantial furniture. So there was a lot in the apartment of the borrower that he had no rights to. So says the Gemara, Rabba Bar Bar Chana says, Tfisas Yad is even if the balabas has less in this rented out apartment. And Kigoin Yosei Shel Machresha, even a peg of a plow that's not significant, all right, that's something that the balabas has anything that it belongs to the balabas, that the tenant has to leave, that's called a Tfisas Yad. Amar Rav Nachman, that we learned the Beis Shmuel, like this. Davar anitil b'Shabbos, if something may be moved, unlike the Yosei Shel Machresha that is relatively insignificant, but it's muktzah, so it cannot be moved. That is called Tfisas Yad. So we're going with that. If something is not even muktzah, then just because the balabas left it there, it doesn't help. The tenant is called the tenant, and if the tenant did not participate in the eruv, then oisid, he prohibits it on everyone. But like we just learned above, the second understanding, what we learned today, Rabba Bar Bar Chana's understanding that davar she'ein nitl b'Shabbos, something that may not be moved. Now, it may not be moved either because it's muktzah, or it may not be moved because it's heavy, like in the case of Boinius. It doesn't have to be muktzah. Sofa doesn't have to be muktzah, but people don't move it. Either or, einoi oiser, because that means that the balabas indeed retained some usage of that apartment, of that home. The balabas remains the halachic balabas. The tenant here is viewed as a tenant. Tanya Nami Hachi, it says clearly that if the owner leaves tevel is muktzah on Shabbos, Or yesh loy ashoshis. Ashoshis is heavy metal bars. It's not about it being muktzah, it's about it physically being heavy. In either cases, because that's the definition of tfisas yad. Very good. And now we begin the Mishnah with the absentee resident. Pashut, guys, we had quoted this many times earlier. It says the Mishnah Hamaniach Beisai. Hamaniach Beisai means you left your house for Shabbos and you did not participate with the Eruv. V'halach lishbois be'ir acheres. Now this ir acheres is meduyak. Ir acheres meaning that because of the rules of Tchum Shabbos, if you're the Jew, you taka halachically may not return. So says the Mishnah, whether the absentee resident is a nachri, with whom, if he would have been present, you have to do schiras makim. The echad Yisrael, with whom he would have to participate in the Eruv. Says Rabbi Meir, Harei zeh oiser divrei Rabbi Meir, like Rashi says, the dira b'loy bolim shema dira. Doesn't matter that you're not there; you needed to participate, or with whom you needed to do schiros. Rabbi Yehuda argues with this. Einoi oiser, like Rashi says, Rabbi Yehuda subscribes to the shita that dira b'loy bolim lav shema dira. Rabbi Yosi Oimer, like Rashi says, Rabbi Yosi agrees with Rabbi Yehuda that it's lav shema dira. However, being that a goy is not bound to the laws of Shabbos and he might return on Shabbos, oiser, even though he didn't return yet, since he may return, he needed to do schiras makim. It's only the yid eina oiser. Why is that? Like we mentioned, ir acheres she'ein derech Yisrael lavi b'Shabbos, because halacha does not allow him. Rab Shimon is the most lenient opinion. Rab Shimon holds that even if the yid didn't go to a place where halachically he may not return, he went to another house in the same city, or he went to a place with whom he made an Eruv Tchumen. Nevertheless, afilu iniach beisay and v'holach lishbois eitzel bitoy ba'oiso ha'ir. Nevertheless, eino oiser, because he's not here. If you are not here, even though that halachically you may return, but you won't return. Why is that? Shekvar hisiyam elibay, the person dismissed. He dismissed returning. You'll go Shabbos to someone else's house, and the example is meduyik to your daughter's house, your married daughter's house. Then your non-participation is not a problem. Amarav, first of all, halachic Rab Shimon. Halachic Rab Shimon that you don't even a yid who left to his daughter's house doesn't aser. However, v'dafke bitoy avol b'noy. But if a parent goes to his married son's house, in the house where halachically if need be, he can return home, loy, it's a problem. Loy meaning we don't say Rab Shimon. His non-participation does aser. The Amri Inshi, because this is the expression that we have out there, that Navach Bach Kalba, that if a male dog barks at you, then you can still enter the house. The male dog here is referring to the son-in-law, that even if a person, God forbid, had a quarrel with his son-in-law, it's not the end of the world because it's your daughter's house also, and your daughter is going to figure out how to make azah shalom between her husband and her father. Not fair to put that on her, but it's going to be reconciled. But nabach bach guri asam. But if a female dog barks at you, meaning that if you have God forbid, a quarrel with your daughter-in-law, and she tells you to leave the house, then get out of the house. This won't be so easily reconciled. So if you go to your son for Shabbos, even Rab Shimon will be Maida. No, if you're in the city, who says you're not coming back? You might come back. It's only when you go to your married daughter. Interesting insight into the relationship between one's married children. The difference between a son who's married and a daughter, bottom line is that the woman, as the Rebbe says, she is the Akeras Habayis. Okay. Says the next Mishnah. Guys, now we're starting this new sugya. Whoever has pictures and can put them up will be extremely helpful. There's two chatzeres, one on side of the other. They were not ma'ariv because there's a wall separating them. They don't even have the option of being ma'ariv. And there is a water pit that goes directly under that wall. Gewaldige a picture, directly under the wall. What you should dafka not focus on right now is on the brown mechitza. Don't look at it. That's what you need to add. If not for the brown mechitza here on the screen, if you just have the wall separating the two chatzeros, Neither chatzir, that's the premise of the Mishnah, and that will indeed be the sheet of most of the Tanoim. Neither can use the boir. So first of all, many Achronim explain this Mishnah as a hemshuk to our whole sugya. Why not? Because the boir is a third area. Chatzir Aleph and Chatzir Beis were not ma'arev. They both have the same equal access to the boir, so they answer one on the other. Okay, there's another issue over here, and that is that even if I would be allowed to use the water of my side, but water mixes. The water that's in your side is like people of one chatzir cannot take things that are in the other chatzir and bring it into them. That's something exactly that they may not do because they made no eruv. Now, yes, I'll speak out the whole sugya by heart. We have a concept called good achis mechitzta. If halachically we were to consider the wall that's going on the ground, if that is viewed halachically as it's going down into the water, then there would not be a problem. And indeed, so will be one sheet in the Mishnah. But let's begin. Says the Mishnah, boir shebein beis chatzeres. You may not use it. Neither side can use even the water that's near their side. Unless they build this brown mechitza that you have here in the picture. In other words, not the mechitza that is the wall. No, an additional mechitza. Now the question is, what I'm going to read right now won't fit. Nothing that we're learning will fit the picture that you have here inside. It's just good to have the image over here. So we have like this. The words of the Mishnah are enigmatic, and they'll be unpackaged in the Gemara. Here he says it has to be Gavaya Asara Tvachim. Okay, that's a given. Any mechitza that's not 10 Tvachim tall is not called a mechitza. Where do you need to place it? So it says here the Tanakama Bein Milmata, whether it's placed down there. Where is down there? Doesn't say. We'll see in the Gemara. Bein Mitoich Oignei, or within its lips. Within its lips means that it's within the pit, but it's all the way on the top. Either or. Rabban Shimon Aimer, no, that this is a machlokes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Now, again, the meaning of Beis Shammai and the meaning of Beis Hillel is not clear. Beis Shammai Yoimrim, it has to be milmata. Now, what does milmata mean? Milmata means just inside the pit. Milmata means close to the surface of the water, but it can be above the water. Does milmata mean all the way in the bottom of the pit? We'll see. Milmata. And Beis Hillel says it can also be milmailam. It can also be milmailam. Okay, now Amar Rabbi Yehuda, I don't need a mechitza at all. Leitehei mechitza gedoyla min hakoisel shebeneim. Why would adding a mechitza be more effective from what you already have? You know, many times in life you already have the solution. The mechitza that's separating the chatzeros is a mechitza. It's 10 tvachim tall. Yes, we apply good achas mechitza into water. It's halachically as if the mechitza goes all the way to the bottom. So therefore, nothing needs to get done. Now, Rabbi Yehuda is easy. Let's now understand what is this lamata and lamayla. What are we referring to? So here we have a machlekes amirim. Amar Rav Huna, that when the Mishnah speaks about lamata, it means lamata mamish. Lamata mamish means not in the water. So you have the water pit, but the surface of the water, just imagine, is already 50% down, already 50% down. Lamata means that it's right above the surface of the water. If whoever has the screen, look at the one to the left. No one is demanding, according to Rav Huna, for the mechitza to go in the water. That's not lamata. Lamata means it has to be touching all the way down, touching the above the surface of the water, but adjacent to the surface of the water. And lamaila mamash. Lamaila mamash means, again, nothing has to be in the water, but lamaila would mean it has to be within the pit, but towards the top of the pit. And meaning,
Rabbi, we don't have any definitions here, right? We just have like kind of an estimation. It's not telling us how many tvachim it is from the surface.
No, we have very good. No, it's not true, Danny. Every mechitza is only mechitza if it's 10 tvachim tall. Obviously, we must be, in other words, what we're not giving is the depth of the water pit, correct? We're not telling you how deep down is the height of the surface of the water. I know that. But even when you go from the height, from the top of the water to the top of the pit, let's say they're 50 tvachim. Lamata means in the lowest part of these 50 tvachim. Lamayla means in the top part of these 50 tvachim.
So let's say lamata. Does that mean that it's within 3 tvachim? So you could say that it's loved to the water. Is that what we're saying?
Okay. So b'chlal we do apply the din of loved. So even if it won't be touching the surface of the water, yeah, the Mishnah is not mentioning loved right now. We're going to have loved in 2 daf from now. concerning this topic. This topic is going to go for a while. Rabbi Yehuda Omar, no. Rabbi Yehuda is saying Lamayla Lamata is not in the pit above the surface of the water. No, Lamata means in the bottom, inside the water, all the way underground. Lamata min hamayim. And Lamayla, when we say Lamayla means not within the lips. Lamayla means what Lamata meant before. Right now, you see the Besilil's Lamata is what the Lamata here means all the way in the bottom. The Lamayla now is the Lamata of before. Lamayla means above the water, but near the surface of the water. So holds Rav Yehuda, and as we will learn Gemara Rashi, Rav Yehuda Shita will be refuted. But it's going to take a while. So Omar le Rabba Barafuna Labaya. Hold on. Hold the Omar Rav Yehuda. That Lamata Taka Lamata Min Hamayim. Why didn't he say what was wrong with Rafuna? Maishna Lamata Mamish Doloi. He did not say Lamata means in the pit, low in the pit, but above the surface of the water, because the logic would be, because then why would it help? If the mechitza is not going into the water, so still the arive maya water mixes. Like, so what if you put a mechitza in the water? If the issue is the water on your side cannot be taken to my side, so if you put up some mechitza all the way in the bottom, if you put a mechitza that doesn't touch the water still mix. But now asking a technical question. So even now, so what's your solution of Yehuda? Lamata means in the water, down in the water. That's already the answer, guys. You're already looking at that. Take that screen off. Down in the water still mixes. Lamata min hamayim nami. Even if you put the mechitza in the water, if the water is going above the height of the mechitza because you're putting it all the way down, vaiter ha'ariva mayo. You didn't resolve anything. So the Gemara says, no. Rav Yehuda's explanation did resolve some. Guys, we know that when you put a mechitza in the water, it doesn't mamish stop the flow of the water. But if you put a mechitza that goes all the way down to the floor, and the mechitza is going on the entire length of the void, the water pit, and the mechitza is actually also protruding above the water, and or umatiba, we also heard it in the name of Rabbi Chia, that sarech sheiro rishon shalkanim, roishan shalkanim, lamaylam and amayim tefach, that it's not only enough for the mechitza to go under the water, it has to go under the water, and it's going to go up, and it has to go above the surface of the water of a tefach. So this will clearly separate, this will clearly divide the waters. That's why it works. Yeah, you can still argue, but the water still mixed, but this is not a big difference. Another question. So when Rav Yehuda went ahead and he said that lamaylam means lamaylam and amayim. Lamaylam and amayim means right above the water, not above in the pit, not all the way in between the lips. So maishna lamaylam mamish doloi. Why did he not say that it's all the way on top, meaning near the surface of the pit? Because that imamaya, because then how will that mechitza be effective? It's not even touching the water. It's not even near the water. Well, now that you're saying that lamayla means lamayla and amayim, if the mechitza doesn't have to go inside the water, vaiter hanami arivamaya. So again, amalayla ishmiel achada tani Yaakov karchinoa that sarech sheyishakeya roshei kanim b'mayim tefach. That when we say that it has to be right above the surface of the water, Rabbi Yehuda's understanding is that at least one tefach of the mechitza has to go in the mayim. So that's the whole point. The point is that the moment the mechitza goes into the water, it creates a greater separation. That was the picture we had before. You see the Beis, at least it goes a little bit in the mayim. And Bishami even better, it goes all the way down to the floor, and it goes above the mayim a little bit. So that creates a better division of the water, which is why it's going to be permitted.
So Rabbi, according to Rav Yehuda, according to this explanation, both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel have to be in the water. It's just the question is, does it have to be mostly
how much in the water? How much in the water? Very good. Beis Shammai is a lot more machmir. And the Gemara now, we're learning Gemara Rashi. The Gemara is going to refute Rav Yehuda. We're going to quote two statements. The kasha won't be from the first, the kasha will be from the second. The Elo, we're going to have two rulings. Ruling number one is called the Amar Rav Yehuda. Koira Arba. Guys, I know what Arba without a hey normally means Amos. That's a good cloud we should know by now. But first of all, the Girsa is wrong. You can look inside Tosfos. Koira Arba, a beam that's 4 tfachim wide. Materes bechurba. Materes bechurba means that you have a location that is not considered enclosed because the walls collapsed. But you know, many times when a house falls apart, epis remains. What was the little bit that remained? You had beams on the sides that are holding up crossbars. So the ikid here is that you are in a location, there's no walls, but you are under a crossbar. Now, if that crossbar is 4 tfachim wide, let's use, that's a big machlekes here, Rashi Tosfos. Rashi uses the concept of, that's not the picture, of mechitza tuluya. I'll explain it. Let's go with Tosfos. Tosfos uses the concept of pi tikra yored v'soisim. If you remember when we began the Masechta, that was Shitas Tosfos, your Pevav holds that even though by mechitza tuluya we say gedoyim boikim boy ruins it, but for some reason Allah Moshe Sinai that when it comes to a crossbar, that when we apply the concept of pi tikra yored v'soisim, we're not concerned with gedoyim boikim boy, which means that when you have a crossbar that's 4 tfachim wide, we make believe. It's not a make-believe, that's not a good word. Halacha l'Moshe Sinai is that we consider the edges, the top of the koyda to come all the way down to the ground. What's the Reshus HaYachid? 4 tfachim by 4 tfachim with mechitzas that are 10 tfachim tall. So anywhere under the koyda has a din of a Reshus HaYachid. Outside, under the koyda, you're going to be an economist. Right, you're not in a Reshus HaRabim, but it's not a Reshus HaYachid because it's a churva, the walls fell down. So that's din number 1. That when you have a cross beam, if the cross beam is 4, materes bechurva means you can carry under the cross beam because of, let's go with Tosfos, because of the klal of pi tikra yored v'soisim. Now we're going to apply all of this now to our water pit. And statement number 2. And the Rav Nachman Amar Abba Baravua daf pei vav amid beis. Here we have the good version with the hey at the end. Materes bamayim, same concept now by water. You have a water pit, and above the water pit you have a crossbar that's 4 tfachim wide. We say the same thing. Pi tikra yored v'soisim. Halachically, it separates both sides of the water. Right now, ka'azil. You can ask a question, since physically there isn't any mechitzas coming down into the water. So let's apply that the crossbeam, pitikra, is a mechitza all the way into the water. Fine. But when I'm going to throw my bucket, gavaldik picture. So you see there's a koida that's above the water pit on the screen. Since it's 4 tfachim wide, ke'ilu, he made the dots on the left side, on both sides. It's ke'ilu, it goes all the way down. But the problem is that if I'm standing in one side and I put my bucket in there, there's nothing physical there. There's nothing physically there. Why wouldn't my bucket go to the other side of the pit? And again, when we're speaking about both sides are from 2 chatzedes that were not ma'ariv, so one is taking from the reshus of the other. How does that resolve that? So the Gemara answers, Kim luhu l'rabanan, the ain deli mahalach yosem arba tfachim. Question, we're not speaking about putting a deli in the Pacific Ocean. We're speaking about a water pit. The water is calm. No one is trying to get the water from the other side of the pit. Yes, it's not a perfect science. It's water. So when you put a bucket down, it moves. It doesn't move more than 4 tfachim. It's not going to go into the other side. However, asks the Gemara, okay, I get it. It's not going to go into the other side, but it can go a little bit under the beam. And if, as we explained, the whole novelty, Danny, of Rabbi Yehuda over Rav Huna was he didn't like the fact that according to Rav Huna, none of the mechitzas ever going into the water, and the water is mixing. And if water mixing is a problem, so how can we apply the koira, allowing you to use it? There, the water for sure mixes, and you can take it from under the koira. Oh, so Ella Rashi says, not everyone agrees with Rashi. I'm reading inside the Rashi 3 lines from the top. Ella, the leisa le Rav Yehuda. We're going back. Ella kid Rav Huna. Because of this, we didn't accept that shot in the Mishnah. Now let's go back over here. We are going with Rav Huna. What was the kasha? What was Rabbi Yehuda's problem? We have to resolve that.
Can I ask you one question here, Rabbi?
One second. If the mechitza that the Mishnah is saying we have to add doesn't need to go into the water in any way, shape, or form, we're not going with the Tana Rabbi Yehuda that holds good achas. We're not going with that yet. So why would a mechitza going into the boy help? Now that we refuted the Rabbi Yehuda, that's what we have to address. It's not separating the waters. So says the Gemara, the kalu sheikilu chachamim b'mayim. yes, the waters are mixing. On the other hand, you have to put some sort of mechitza, but we find that we are lenient when it comes to putting up mechitzas in water, above water, in water, that Chazal were lenient, and they allowed us to use these halachic concepts, even though b'mitzias, the waters mix. Yes, Danny? Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not so clear on this question that we have on Rav Yehuda from this case of the Kaira. Because even in our Mishnah, we learned an opinion of who is it, Rabbi Yehuda, that says that the wall.
I just said we're not going, Danny. Yes, we're not going with Rabbi Yehuda.
So I'm saying,
No.
I'm saying we're in what? We're in Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, right? That was the dispute between.
Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, they all reject. They're not accepting gudachas mechitzah. They're not accepting that.
Okay.
So they have to add a mechitza. So the question, Rabbi Yehuda made a lot of sense, because at least according to Rabbi Yehuda, when you're adding a mechitza in the pit, the mechitza is going somewhat in the water. L'Beis Shammai, wow, it goes in the water. At least L'Beis Hillel is going in. So Rabbi Yehuda is addressing a problem that at least you're making some sort of division in the water.
Okay, and our issue here is that because of this case of the Kaira, where it doesn't go anywhere near the water, therefore it can't fit with his explanation of Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. Who says it has to be like Beis Shammai or Beis Hillel?
It's harder to understand it because, like Mimanav Shach, if you're going to subscribe to good aches, then you don't need anything. It's basically what you're saying, which is taka the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. But all of the Tanaim before Rabbi Yehuda say, no, you got to put something in there. So what does putting something in there help? It's hard to chop. So you added another, so the mechitza goes in. It goes to the top of the surface. It just stays on the top by the lips. So he says no, that you have to put something.
By the way, are we bringing in anywhere like the case of the box off the ship, which it's not even touching the water?
We're getting there. So it says the Gemara, Kid boy minei, Rabbi Tavlo mirav, mechitza tolo yimai shatati bechurva. When you have a wall and the wall doesn't go down to the ground, nor is the wall coming within 3 tfachim of the ground, there you have lavut. But when you don't have lavut, so just like halacha l'moshe mesina, we have a concept of good salik. There's also good achis. Do we paskin that way? And it's a machloikis tanoi. Some tanoim don't care that gedim boikin boy. And amalei, and we paskin ein mechitza tuloy materes because of gedoyim boikin boy. Yes, by mayim, ela b'mayim. Hold on, the fish also go back and forth, and they're, so to say, breaking through this halachic mechitza. It doesn't bother us by the fish. Because b'chlal by mayim kalu sheikilo chachamim b'mayim. So the Gemara, according to Rashi, refuted Rav Yehuda. We stand by Rav Huna. Emes, Rav Huna is not following Rabbi Yehuda that b'chlal the wall that separates the chatzeres suffices. We're not going with that. You have to put something in there. But the moment you put something in there, L'Beis Shammai, L'Beis Hillel, Ki'ilu, that already, this addition is viewed as if it goes all the way down. And we're not concerned with Areve Maya, water is taka mixing. I just want to add that even according to Rav Yehuda, water mixes. You're not sailing the mechitza. So it's about, at least there's something. Doesn't matter. The mechitza is also a halachic something. And then again, machloikis between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. And now the Gemara is quoting the last Tana in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda, that Rabbi Yehuda says, like the mechitza. Like, Danny, exactly this point. Why are you adding anything? Whatever you're adding is not separating the waters physically. Whatever you're adding is going to use the good achis. So why do you have to add anything? There's already the wall separating both mechitzas. Amar Rabba bar bar Chana Amar Rabbi Yechanan. I want you to know that Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah, that is allowing us to use good achis over water, is following the sheet of Rabbi Yosi, as we just quoted above, even over land. Rabbi Yosi is the Tana that allows for us to use good achis. B'shitas Rabbi Yosi Amra, the Amar mechitza teluya materes afilu bayabosh. Now, where is Rabbi Yosi opining? In Masechta Sukkah, mechitzas, we have to have 2 walls and a little bit minimum. By the way, we just mentioned Pi Tikra Yored V'Soisam. The Gemara in Sukkah, Danny, asks the kasha, B'chlal, why do you need to have any walls by your Sukkah? Why don't we say that from the Schach, Pi Tikra Yored V'Soisam? And the Gemara acknowledges that. So halacha l'Moshe Sinai that we don't apply it by sukkah. Just to be aware of that. Because if we would apply the rule of pitikra, that's garnished. No, the Torah says a sukkah, there you have to have a mechitza.
Because of the goats?
No. We just mentioned Shitas Tosfos, which we accept that we don't have Gedoyim Boikenboy disturbing the pitikra. Gedoyim Boikenboy only disturbs mechitza tuluya. So you have to have mechitzas. So you built a sukkah with mechitzas, but the mechitzas don't come to the ground. Now, halacha l'maisa, we in the reverse, when the mechitza is touching the ground or within 3 tvachim from the ground, we do not need for the mechitza to go up until the schach. Lechatchila, we don't need that. As long as the mechitzas are 10 tvachim tall or taller, you know what that means? It really means the mechitza has to be really 7 tvachim and a mashu. Because then you put it a mashu under 3 tvachim, lavut, and then you have 10 tvachim off the ground. Oh, good pictures. So then everyone holds good salik. The mechitza goes all the way up. Now the schach has to be above it. Question is in the reverse. If you built mechitzas, but the mechitzas don't go until the ground, the Tanan, hamashal shel defan is if it's milmaila lamata, which is the picture you had up. Milmaila, it's good. It's all the way by the schach. Not that we need it there, but it's there. It's 10 tvachim tall, but it doesn't hit the ground. So what is the aleph in the bach? If it's not within 3 tvachim of the ground, psula. Good achas mechitzta. Yes, but gedoyim boikim by ruin it. However, milmato l'maylam. Now here we're good. Im gavoyis yitvachim ksheira, because here we say good salik and no gedim are jumping through the window over there. Rabbi Yosi Yoimer, Kshem Shemil Mata Lamaila Sora, Kach Milmaila Lamata Sora. Rabbi Yosi is not concerned with Gedoyim Boykin Boy. So Lechuura says our Gemara that our Tana Rabbi Yehuda and the Mishnah and ERUVIN, Rabbi Yosi and the Mishnah of Sukkah are of the same opinion. Says the Gemara Villohi. Neither way, each one can argue with the other. Don't compare Sukkah to Shabbos. It can go both ways. Rabbi Yehuda explains the Gemara Rabbi Yehuda. Why? Because you could say At Kalakam Rabbi Yehuda here. Guys, the boyer is in a Reshus HaYachid. A boyer is a Reshus HaYachid. It's 10 tvachim deep. It's 4x4. What's adjacent to it? A chatzir. A chatzir is weiter a Reshus HaYachid. The whole issue is that the Rabbanan. Over here, Rabbi Yehuda holds a good achas mechitzta. But when it comes to a sukkah, the oiraisa, like we mentioned, God told Moshe, we don't allow b'chlal pitikra yored. You need to have mechitzas. Yeah, you need to have, two and a bit. But you need to have 2 and a bit. You don't have it. Gedoyim boikim boy. And also in reverse, v'loy Rabbi Yosi will hold like Rabbi Yehuda. At kan lekam Rabbi Yosi elam. It's amazing how we're flipping it. Sukkah is the oiraisa, but what type of the oiraisa? If a person, God forbid, doesn't eat in the sukkah, he's violating a mitzvah saseh. But sukkah is teishu shivas yamim. The person didn't mekayim that. Terrible thing. But there's grades in violations, right? The Alter Rebbe in the positive, mischara noide mohusa, says the Alter Rebbe. And same thing in the punishment. You're violating an aseh. Avol Shabbos, the Isur skila. Even though we're speaking about Tchum and Rabbanan, doesn't matter. It's related to Shabbos. It's a Shabbos dike issue. Shabbos, the beginning of Shabbos is a skila. Maybe loy Omar, lav dafka, they go on the same track. Now, guys, Tosfos asks Akasha ve'im toimar. How many times do you remember finding this lashon in the Gemara? Ve'im toimar. And if you're going to ask, that's the lashon of Akasha that we're borrowing always in Tosfos. Ve'im toimar. Hold on. There was a ma'isa that happened in Sipoidi. Let me tell you what happened in Sipoidi. They allowed people to use suspended mechitzas for Shabbos, not for Sukkah. We're saying that Rabbi Yosi Lavdafka will hold it goes by Shabbos. Who was the Rav in Sipoidi? You remember we learned this many times, Rabbi Yosi. So when something happened in Sipoidi, it was under the psak of the Tana Rabbi Yosi that they used Alpi Minas, based on which Rav? He was the Mordechay the Asra there. So what are we trying to prove? That the Rabbi Yosi's leniency by Sukkah, yes, is said by Shabbos. Don't separate Sukkah from Shabbos. The Gemara says no, that story, Rabbi Yosi was Taka the Mordechay the Asra, And after he passed away, as it says in Shulchan Aruch, that there's a concept of Yerusha when it comes to Rabbanis. So who became the Rav? There are conditions. The Ikid is the Yira Shamayim. Then his son became the Marada Asr there. Lo Yalpi Rabbi Yosi, Ella, the Bach adds the words Nase, Ella Alpi Rabbi Shmuel, but Rabbi Yosi Nase. Rabbi Shmuel was the one that not only followed his father's rulings, by Sukkah, he brought it over to Shabbos. Rabbi Yosi Lavdafka would say that by Shabbos. Now that we mentioned that happened during the reign of his son, what was the ma'aseh? What exactly happened? It's interesting. The Chiyasir Avdimi, Omar, Pamacha Shochachu v'Leviu Sefer Torah Ne'Boyim. Right? They needed to daven outdoor minyanim. So now you have the whole ma'aseh. What do you do with the Sefer Torah? That's happening right now to us. So we are very lucky, thank God. But even by us, we put the Sefer Torah inside the room in the front. But then you have to, you can do psicha from there, but you're taking the Sefer Torah. So there was a location that they forgot to bring the Sefer Torah Friday. So what do you do? And there was no mechitza there. Or Lubavitchers, who do you think lived there? Didn't rely on the mechitza. So what do you do now? The city mechitza. So Lamachar, Parsu Sadan al Hoamudim, pumped between where the Sefer Torah was and where the minyan was, that had certain beams. The lashon now is that they threw sheets over those beams. When you throw a sheet, the sheets go down on both sides. It's a given that the sheets went down, but the sheets did not come lower than 3 tvachim off the ground. The height was 10 tvachim. That's a given. But there was an opening under the sheets. That's what happened over there. Now again, the lashon here is that parsu, right? That they actually erected mechitzas al sadim, and they viu sefer Torah. You can just imagine that in the shtibel there was a whole machlekes. Is it kosher? Is it not kosher? They used it. They asked the Rav. Again, the Rav wasn't Rabbi Yosi, it was Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yosi. So the Gemara just makes one question over here. What parsul lechatchila mishari? Did we not learn together? That's called an oil aray. That's called mechitzas. All right, poikikin chaloin, the whole sugya, including the seal. So the Gemara says, no, they didn't throw the sadinim. Elo matzoi sadinim perusam alamudim. They found a way from the shul until the outdoor minyan. They found a path in between mechitzas, but those mechitzas were not mechitzas that went until the ground. That was the shaila. And yes, they relied on it because Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yosi takes his father's psak further from Sukkah, mitzvah asay, to Shabbos, Isra Skila, and the Karaboy. All right.
Rabbi, what was the this path? What did it accomplish for them? It created the issue was what?
Guys, just to make some, even people, let's say here, that are machmir, not using a city eruv, but if you have an eruv that you can see, there's walls, there's my home and your home, and there's physical mechitzas making as a shvil, then you use it. It created a shvil, created the pathway. The path was in between mechitzas. It was a bona fide reshus hayachid. Okay. Says the Gemara. So to add something, if it's so what there was a reshus hayachid, aren't you? There's no eruv chatzedes over here. So I want to go back. It was a city eruv mistama. They made a shituf mavois. They relied on the shituf, but people who don't rely on the eruv itself, or it could be that they found out during Shabbos that the eruv collapsed. There's no eruv. So now they relied on the sadin. Okay. Amar Rabba, you should know that our Tana Rebbe Yehuda, that is very lenient. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't need any type of additional mechitza, not like Bishamay, not like Basila, not like the Tanakama, not Lamaila, not Lamata. You say that mechitza tuluya over mayim is 100% okay. I fishalach are swimming back and forth, doesn't bother me. And the Tana Rabbi Hananya ben Akavya, Amru Davarecha, they are of the same opinion. They are very lenient when it comes to mechitzas over water. Now, guys, buckle your seatbelt. Let's start now. And in Meretz Hashem, whatever we don't learn now, God should give us life, and we will besimcha learn it next year. Rabbi Yehuda Damarim, our Mishnah here. Nothing is needed. Oh, I love the picture on the screen. Rabbi Hanani ben Akavya, halt. Now, even though we have over here the word Ditnan, so as you see, it's in parentheses, in the Moseiras Hashas, he knew there's no such Mishnah. This is a Braisa. Rabbi Hanani ben Akavi Oimer, Gezustera, if you have this platform, the Leps in Venice, Nachamal, you have a house, your house is right over water, over what do you mean? Not over, it's adjacent to water. You would like to open up your window on Shabbos or go out on your platform. The porch is on top of the water, and you want to draw water from the water source underneath you. What is the issue? Not the Oiraisa, but it's the issue that Rabbanan. What's the issue that Rabbanan? Your house is at a Shusayachid. Your platform is at a Shusayachid. We already established that the water in a body of water, dinoi ke karmelis, midrabanan, you may not take anything from a karmelis to a shusayachid. So atkan, we just learned to dinim. So you have to make a dalad by dalad opening before Rabbi Hanania, and you have to make yourself a bona fide mechitza from 4 sides, going up. It can be above. It can go under the platform. Which either way, and here we are saying that even those who don't subscribe to good aches mechitzta over land, gedoyim boy, over water are lenient. Now we're going to go even more lenient. Rab Hanania says you don't even have to build a mechitzah. There's something called koif. That's a chaf vav langefe. You halachically imagine as if the platform is bent. And if there is enough platform to bend that you will form a 4-sided walls of mechitzas that are 10 tfachim, koif and gudaches. Wow. So now my question is, how long the oirech and the roichav of the platform has to be what size for you to be able to do that? So let's read it inside. Gezustera, if you have a platform, as long as it is the last line of the Amid, sheyesh ba arba, see good, on a hay, arba amas. How much is arba amas, guys? If we're speaking about a six, that's a 24 tvachim. 24 tvachim by 24 tvachim. Turning to that Pei Zayin, let's take a stop. If you have a picture, guys, it's really going to help you. But whoever is looking at the screen right now, look how great it is. Guys, you need to have a wall through which to take the water. So you make, and another detail, when even though we're saying good achas mechitzta over water, but in order for you to say that all the way until the ground in the water is already in a reshus hayachid, which is what we're saying, a reshus hayachid has to have mechitzas of 10 tfachim going around it, but it has to be 4 by 4. So the hole in the middle has to be 4 by 4. If the platform is 24 by 24, so if you make the square in the middle of 4 by 4, how much do you have on each side? From the right, from the left, from the front, and from the back. It's completely, right? It's completely arba amos by arba amos. You have 10 tfachim on each side. Because 4 amos is 24 tfachim. When you eat up the 4 tfachim in the middle, you have left over 10 tfachim mamash in each direction. And it's not that we are halachically bending the entire platform. We don't have to do that. We only have to bend the mechitzas that are aligned with the 4 by 4. Halachically bend them. And Abchananya ben Akavia says we are allowed to do that. That choykik badalad al dalit and umemali, and you can put a bucket through the hole and kai koif gudachas mechitzta. Wow. So they hold the same shita. Now hold on. In our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda never subscribed to koif. So as we had before, not Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rabbi Yossi, not Rabbi Yossi necessarily holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Let's have the next few lines. Amar le'abayim, to whom? To Rabba bar, to Rabba, to his teacher, lav dafke. Dilma, maybe not. V'dilma loi. At kan like Amar Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah, Hassan, Elo de Amar gudachas mechitzta. In our Mishnah, there's the Mishnah on Daf Pei Vav. There was a mechitza going over the bird. You have a proper mechitza. Oh, Elama, I get it. Over land, gedoyim boykim boy. So add some sort of mechitza, b'shamay b'silul. Rabbi Yehuda says daf garnished. But you have a mechitza. All you need to use is good achis. But to say koif, this concept of imaginary bending down the platform, and then good loy, and same thing in reverse. This is gavaldik from Abai. you can say that Hanani ben Akavi is so lenient, he will for sure be moida to Rabbi Yehuda Zoktanei. As we'll see, God willing, we don't have enough time to go further. As we'll see, God willing, in the next year, that this heter was dafke over certain bodies of water. What's that? Certain bodies of water. A body of water, he was actually near, and he was asked regarding the Kinetis, or as it's known in the Gemara, the Yam of Tiberia. What makes the Yam of Tiberia a unique body of water? Hoyel, right, the first white line, V'yesh la oiganim. You have over here high banks, which a high bank means, right, chulias haboir, it's like a mechitza. And around the Yam Shel Tiberia, you have cities. And you have around the Yam Shel Tiberia, karpeifos. All of that is surrounding it. Now, I want to take a quick step back. Midoiraisa, what is a cardinalist called? Who remembers? It's called the Reshus HaYachid. Why didn't Chazal allow us to carry from a cardinalist into a Reshus HaYachid? They made it to the Rabbanu. Because since the cardinalist is open, it's doimel Reshus HaRabim. If someone is going to carry from a cardinalist to Reshus HaYachid, you might, God forbid, think that you can carry from a Reshus HaRabim to a Reshus HaYachid. So now we're going to make degrees in a cardinalist. Guys, the Yam Shel Tiberia is not a Reshus HaYachid, because even though it's physically enclosed, even a karpet, what's a karpet? It's an area that's hukaf, but if it's shaloi ledira, it's also, you can't carry there. But it's a lesser issue. So maybe over there he said that you can do both koif and gudachas mechitzta because of the uniqueness of the type of a cardinalist of the Yam Shel Tiberia. Aval bishar meimois, when it comes to other waters, listen to the chap of Abaya. Loy, you know what loy means? Loy, Rab Hananya ben Akavya won't even allow just gudachas. He will not even allow just gudachas. Maybe he will subscribe to all of the shittas we had above in the Mishnah. Beishamai and Beisilel, Gevaldig. So Lav Dafke, they travel together. But Chaver, we did learn this amazing leniency of Rab Hananya ben Akavya over Yam Shel Tiberia. And God willing, it's going to be exciting. And Daf Pei Zayin, we're going to have a lot of different scenarios where this gezustera, where this bream, doesn't even have to be 4 amas by 4 amas. We're going to, if I'm not mistaken, after 3 cases, each case, the gezustera can be even of a lesser size. But using this new thing we learned about today for the first time of koif, I know by Sukkah we had something similar, right? We have what's it called? No, the bent roof. It's called a Akuma. The
right?
doifen akuma. There's something similar, but there the doifen is. There's actually a bend. We're just saying it's a bent wall. Here everything is flat. We are bending it. We're going to see how far we can stretch it, allowing you to use a lesser size gezustera. And yes, you will be able to draw water on Shabbos. God willing, to be continued.
Good.
See, we can, if you ask, we can do it in 50 minutes.
But Rabbi, the case of the wall,
yes,
of Rabbi Yehuda with the whole Beishamai Beisil over there.
Yeah.
No one says that the wall is Dalet Amas wide, right? At least we don't
need that.
Assume that.
No, Danny, Dal Tfachim.
Dal Tfachim, that's what I mean.
I want to make a point. 1 second. Okay, I'm happy you bring this up. The board, a given, it's Dalet by Dalet.
What the wall?
I mentioned this Bekitza, that many Achronim learned the whole Mishnah, what we learned today. Why can't you take it from the board? It's not just because the waters are mixing. They understand the taka. This is the flow of the last few daf. Chatzar Aleph, Chatzar Beis. They both have easy access. To the board. The board is a reshus b'fnei atzmai. Why is it a reshus b'fnei atzmai? Because it's dalad by arba'ah. Guys, if the board would not be arba'ah by arba'ah, it will be a makim ptur. If it will be a makim ptur, they both can use it. They both can use it.
Okay, fine, but I'm focusing on the size of the wall. The wall itself.
The wall is 10 tefachim.
10 tefachim, but the width of the wall. It's not a kaira that's daled 4 tefachim. It's just a wall, whatever, right? We're not talking about. They didn't put us a minimum meaning.
Correct. The only one that's about the width of the wall is that thing on the bottom of the amid, on top of the amid. Correct.
Right. So I'm just thinking about this case of kaif. At least there, it's 4 by 4 and it's 10 tefachim. Right, which is to me that's more of a chumrah. In the case of Rabbi Yehuda, you could have a skinny wall that's 1 tefach wide, and he's saying that it goes straight down. He doesn't say that you need. I'm saying to me, that sounds like Reb Chananya ben Akavia is more chomer, because at least you need dollar by dollar and 10 tvachim. Here, you just need the 10 tvachim. You don't need the dollar by dollar.
Reb Chananya doesn't even have a wall. There is no wall. Reb Chananya has zero wall.
It's not a wall, but it's a platform.
So what? So to make a platform, you're changing something horizontal to vertical. We never had that before. I'm saying this Nakuda we never had until now. Never. Not on Shabbos, not in ERUVIN. That something that's horizontal can be viewed as if it's going vertical.
Well, it's just the opening that we're saying that goes down.
No. First, you have to create the walls, and now that goes down even further. First, you bend it, and then you drag it down all the way until the ground. Good. Chevra, a good Shabbos, a good Erev Shabbos.
I get.
Where did we stop?